about getting them to look like a show steer. Once they do, they start bowing. So if they have base width up front enough to match their structure, straight up and down structure and behind, that's good enough. If they're too narrow and they cross over behind, or if they have cowhock, that structure goes along with them looking good in the ring. Anything you do to try to clip that in is not going to be able to do it. So selecting the right one is part of the key to start with. You notice how these heifers are also up-headed? How their neck junction comes into their shoulder? There's people breed for that. If they have a low neck set right here, and you always want them to hold their head and neck up like this heifer does, come up through her shoulder, come up through her neck, and look real feminine and up-headed and long-fronted, and you breed cattle that have their neck set down here and they're doing this, and you're constantly, when you start breaking them to get their neck up, they kind of bow up, they're standing there like that because their whole shoulder structure is neck structure. And where it comes into that neck-shoulder junction is not correct to get her to look feminine and up-headed and stylish. That's where selection. Are you going to do ultra wide? Well, you put tails in. Now, ultra wide's another little deal. It is like a build-up paint, and it will be really white. So if you use this, you've got to paint it. You can do this real easy and maybe not paint it. But now, what's he going to try to correct? He said flank. She's a little tall, isn't she? In her flank. She's a little too upstanding. What a judge would say, she's cut up in her flank, and I would like to see more depth of flank and volume. That's what I would say if I was looking at it, if I was going to be my correct term. Other people might say it different. What he's going to do is put ultra white down there and try to build that down with that hair to make it separate, to make her look like she has more capacity, more depth of body, more flank to her, so she doesn't look cut up. Same way with shoulders and rib. They can be so pinched behind the ribs right here. They will use ultra white right in here to try to build that out so they don't look like their shoulders are stuck way out here and look too coarse in their shoulders, and then they come in and they're pinched here and not enough heartburn, because you want that capacity and uniform capacity from front to rear. So there's different grooming techniques you use for different ones. If they're really deep and thick, they'll be fine no matter what. Lance asked why I didn't cut these little straggly hairs off right here. If you look real close on this heifer down here, how much? Bend down and look. She's got a lot of sheath, doesn't she? And if she is so tall underneath and he's putting a little ultra white to make her look deeper, if you cut those hairs off, what's she going to look? She's going to look rounded, a little tubular. Can I pick on her like that? And that's hair. A little tubular, and you're going to see that sheath hanging down that far if you take that hair and them long guard hairs off. So he's going to leave most of those on there.
And most
for
of the time,
capacity.
when the judge looks at
it, the judge is out here.
Yeah, he's going to be back there, so you can't pick out those individual hairs as well when you're back that far.
It's good to leave a lot of that hair on rather than take it off, because if you took all that off, and we could do that on the other side, she's not going to look deep. As deep as she does, she won't look as deep in her flank, and her sheath is really going to show up, because it's probably 3.5 inches under there. But that hair now takes up about 2 inches, and when I'm standing up here, I only see about 1.5 inches of that sheath. And it's all perception. You're judging perception.
What's that you're putting on now?
Black paint. And that's a completely water-soluble paint. It's black touch-up. I didn't know we already had it out. Do not go to the Walmart and buy paint. This is water-soluble. It will come out with water. And see how far away he is from her? And all that paint does is blend that glue in and blend the color in to get her to look natural. And you do not want to get right up on top of this calf and spray it. You want it as far away from him. And I got to buy a whole case of paint if he does forehead for me at State Fair, because see how far away he is? Because half of it is gone into the air, but if you try to get it all on, that is going to mat down and look shiny and slick and flat and not look any good at all. Oh, it looks so pretty. And see, he made it a little darker down there and he put a little on and it's going to blend in where you won't even see it, but it makes her look darker. And it blends in that leg structure. Now, some people will paint almost the whole body if they have brown hair like this. It is illegal to change color patterns. People do it. Yeah. Yeah, on Angus, you cannot put paint above the hog anywhere anymore. You cannot use paint in Angus. That's a rule that the Angus Association made. That's just a rule. No paint. Steers.
You can't use this? You can't use this on Angus?
You're not supposed to. That's where you want to use prime time or some kind of glue that's not right. And some places, Richard, some places in Angus you can't put any glue above the hock. No glue anymore. The first time they made the rule, they tried to take away a lot of that, didn't they? But they never did do it. So remember that there's certain rules, and you need to find out the grooming rules. Like in Simmental, and I know people do it in others, you're not supposed to change the color pattern. So if you got a white spot right here, or white up here, or white right in here, technically you're not supposed to change the color pattern. But I've seen, I went and tried to find the reserve grand champion Simmental heifer at the Royal 4 years ago, and we walked all over the barn, and I thought I knew who owned her, and we couldn't find her. So I asked somebody, I said, well, we were right here, we're standing right in front of her. She had a white tail from here to here, the whole white switch, white on the back foot, and white under there, and she was solid black in the ring. So it's pretty hard to find them if you're trying to find a color pattern that's already adopted. Okay, you done?
Done.
See how he groomed in that top line? If you go over that side and that tail head, just a little bit of a rise, still got flat, still straight. And Dustin's pretty good at it and gets done pretty quick. If you don't know and you start too late and you're trying real hard, you can really create yourself a headache and stress. Especially if you have several. If you see how he clipped in that leg there, still got a little cushion right here, still straight up and down, but still increase the bone width probably an inch and a half.
I didn't know if they wanted to look at this side.
Yeah, if you want to look, walk around and look at this.